You're not boarding this jet. The sentence sliced through the quiet private terminal like a steel blade. The man in the Navy pilot uniform didn't bother to lower his voice. He wanted everyone to hear. He looked directly at her. A black woman in tailored black slacks, a cream silk blouse, hair pulled back in a neat chignon, and dismissed her with one glance. This is a private charter, he added, arms folded, his voice dripping with contempt. We don't allow walk-ins. Step aside before security removes you. She didn't flinch. The polished marble floor gleamed under the fluorescent lights, reflecting the faces of passengers who had stopped pretending not to stare. A man in a gray suit shifted uncomfortably by the coffee bar. Two women on a leather sofa leaned closer to each other and whispered. One of them slowly raised her phone to record. Sir, she said evenly, I have a confirmed seat on this flight. Her tone was calm, but it carried a weight that made a few heads turn. The pilot smirked. No, you don't. You're not on the manifest. And even if you were, people like you don't just charter Gulfstreams. Those words hit the air like a slap. She drew a breath, spine straight, chin high. There was fire behind her eyes, but not the kind that erupted. It was the kind that burned quietly, the kind that had endured too many rooms like this. In a flash, she remembered another room. Charlotte, North Carolina. She was 16, waiting in a hotel lobby for her parents, wearing her Sunday best, only to be told she looked suspicious and was escorted outside like a criminal. That memory had lived in her bones for decades. And here it was again. Run my name, she said softly. The pilot shook his head. Not happening. This jet leaves in 15 minutes, and you're not getting on it. Through the glass doors beyond the gate, the Gulfstream G700 sat glowing on the tarmac, its engines idling, the picture of exclusivity. Another man appeared now, the terminal manager, red tie, polished shoes, clipboard clutched like a weapon. What's the problem here? She's trying to board without credentials, the pilot said quickly. That's not true, she answered, still calm. The manager didn't even ask for her documents. He grabbed the leather handle of her carry-on and yanked it out of her hand. We'll let security sort this out, he muttered, already signaling to the guard at the door. Gasps rippled through the terminal. Phones were fully raised now. A young flight attendant at the reception desk bit her lip. She'd seen the woman's name scan green on the booking system earlier, but her voice was small. Sir, I think she's, stay out of this, the manager snapped, silencing her. The woman stood in the center of the room, unmoving, her luggage now dragged several feet away like a trophy of power abused. And then the worst cut came. The pilot stepped closer, his voice low but meant to humiliate. This airline is private property. You don't belong here. Go find a bus. Maybe they'll take you. The room stilled. She didn't blink. She reached slowly into the pocket of her blazer, pulled out her phone, and tapped the screen once. Before we continue, she said quietly, her voice carrying like a steady drumbeat through the terminal. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. She lifted her gaze to the pilot. Now, she said, voice cold and certain, back to me. His face twisted. What's that supposed to mean? The answer came instantly through the speaker in her phone. A calm female voice. Ma'am, acquisition protocol is standing by. Just give the word. She exhaled slowly, shoulders squared, as if she had just planted her feet on the ground she was about to own. And in that moment, everyone in the terminal could feel it. The storm was no longer coming. It was already here. The security guard moved first, broad-shouldered, uniform pressed, earpiece tight against his temple. He cut through the terminal with the quiet arrogance of someone used to obeyed orders. Ma'am, he barked, stopping just short of her. I'm going to need you to step outside. Now. She didn't move. Behind him, the pilot folded his arms, the terminal manager clutching her carry-on like it was evidence. Remove her, the pilot ordered. She's trespassing. Sir, the young flight attendant at the reception desk tried again, voice shaking but clear this time. Her name's in the system. I saw it flash green. She has a confirmed booking. The manager shot her a look sharp enough to cut glass. One more word, and you'll be unemployed by morning. The woman in the center of it all remained still, her phone still in her hand, her eyes scanning the room. She noticed the passengers. The man in the three-piece suit gripping his briefcase tighter, afraid to say a word. The two women with their phones half hidden behind handbags, recording. A teenager tugging at his mother's sleeve, whispering, "Why won't they let her on?" The air was heavy now, not quiet, but charged. "Ma'am," the guard said again, voice lower this time. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're disrupting the terminal." She looked up at him calmly. "I'm standing here. That's all." The manager stepped forward, voice rising. "Enough. You're not authorized to be on this property. Either you leave, or we'll have you detained. Your little phone won't help you." He reached for her arm. She stepped back just enough, eyes steady, tone razor sharp. "Touch me, and you'll regret it." Something in the way she said it made his hand freeze midair. The flight attendant's voice cracked from the corner, louder now. "She's telling the truth. She booked the G700. I saw the confirmation." The pilot whipped around. "Stay out of this, Mia. You're a trainee. You don't know protocol." But Mia didn't sit down. "I know what I saw," she shot back, trembling but refusing to shrink. "You don't get to erase her just because she doesn't look like your usual passengers." Gasps spread through the crowd. A man with salt and pepper hair near the coffee bar murmured, "She's right. This feels wrong." The manager's face flushed red. "Everyone here needs to mind their business." He tossed the woman's carry-on toward the guard. "Escort her out. She's done here." But then a voice came from her phone again, soft, deliberate, amplified just enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Ma'am, the board has confirmed preliminary approval. Acquisition protocol is live. We're standing by for your signal." The guard hesitated. What was that?" She didn't answer. She simply took one step forward, reclaiming the space they'd been trying to shrink her out of, her gaze sweeping the room like she already owned it. And in that moment, you could feel the room shift. The pilot frowned. "This isn't your show. Do you understand? You're not getting on that jet. Not today, not ever." She tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. Then, quiet enough that the words carried like a blade. "Are you sure about that?" Phones lifted higher. Passengers whispered. Someone near the windows muttered, "I think I've seen her before, isn't she?" The manager clapped his hands, desperate to regain control. "Enough. Security. Get her out of here before this turns into a circus." But it already was. The circus wasn't her. It was them, loud, frantic, unraveling. While she stood unmoved in the center of it all, the manager's voice cracked across the terminal like a whip. "Rip that ticket up. She's not stepping foot on my jet." The pilot didn't hesitate. He snatched the boarding pass from her hand, tore it straight down the middle, and let the pieces drift to the polished marble floor like trash. Gasps erupted from the bystanders. Phones were fully raised now, red record dots glowing like tiny witnesses. The woman's gaze never left his. "You're done here," the manager sneered, tossing her carry-on toward the security guard. "We'll hold your bag until we can confirm if any of it's stolen. Move." "Stolen," she repeated softly. "You heard me." He stepped closer, lowering his voice so the insult would sting. "You people try this all the time. Fake bookings, fake cards, hoping no one checks. This isn't charity, lady. Go back to..." "Finish that sentence," she said, voice steady as steel. He didn't. The teenager by the coffee bar flinched. His mother whispered, "This is disgusting." But the manager kept going, as if volume would drown out guilt. "You're wasting everyone's time. You don't belong in private aviation. Go wait for a bus, maybe they'll take you." The room went dead silent. Her shoulders squared, the kind of posture forged in boardrooms where no one expected her to lead. The kind of posture born from years of rooms like this one. And then came the memory, uninvited, unrelenting. She was 24 again, walking into a boutique hotel in Atlanta after a red-eye flight. Hair pulled back, wearing sweatpants because she hadn't slept. The front desk clerk looked her up and down and said, "You don't look like someone who'd stay here." They canceled her reservation on the spot. She'd slept in her rental car that night. She would never forget that feeling. Now, standing in this terminal, she refused to feel it again. She reached for her phone. The pilot scoffed. "Oh, please. Calling for backup? Nobody's saving you from this." Her thumb tapped the screen once. "Carla," she said calmly into the receiver. "Yes, ma'am," came the voice instantly. "Log every word spoken in this room for audit. And escalate acquisition protocol to phase 2. The guard shifted uneasily. "What is this? You think threatening us changes anything?" Her gaze sliced through him. "I don't make threats. I make decisions." From the reception desk, Mia, the young flight attendant, stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but it carried. She's telling the truth. She's booked on this jet. You saw her name in the system, you just deleted it. Stop talking, the manager barked. One more word, and you're out of a job. But Mia didn't sit down. She pointed to the torn boarding pass on the floor. This is wrong. Everyone can see it. Someone by the windows nodded. She's right. This is discrimination. The manager's face turned red. He spun on the crowd. This woman is a fraud. She's trying to scam a multi-million-dollar airline. The black woman CEO stepped forward, eyes locked on him. Her voice was soft, but cut through every corner of the room. You called me a fraud. She paused, letting the silence bite. In an airline you're about to lose. Phones shook as passengers tried to capture her words. The manager blinked, trying to laugh it off, but the sound never came. What are you talking about? She didn't answer. She didn't need to, because in that moment, everyone in that terminal felt the ground shifting beneath their feet. Step back. The manager barked at the passengers closing in, voice rising to a shrill edge. This isn't your business. But the crowd wasn't listening anymore. Phones were up, whispers growing into open commentary. A man near the glass doors muttered, "She's been calm this entire time, and they're treating her like a criminal." Another voice added, "She paid for that flight. We all saw it." The young flight attendant, Mia, took another step forward, shoulders trembling but spine straight. "You deleted her booking," she repeated, louder now. "I saw the screen. You erased her name." "Enough." The manager lunged toward her, but the black woman stepped between them, her presence like a wall. "Touch her," she said quietly, "and you'll regret it." The manager froze, face twitching. "You think you can scare me? You have no idea who you're talking to." She didn't blink. "Neither do you." Her phone vibrated in her hand. She lifted it to her ear. "Ma'am." Carla's voice came through, calm and steady. "Phase 2 of acquisition protocol is complete. The board is ready to finalize. Do you want me to join you in person?" "Yes," the CEO said softly. "Gate 4. Now." The manager's laugh was brittle. "What is this, some stunt? You think calling your friend makes you powerful?" But even as he spoke, the glass doors at the far end of the terminal slid open with a mechanical hiss. A woman in a tailored navy suit strode in, carrying a slim laptop case. Carla, the CEO's executive assistant, moved with purpose, scanning the room like she'd walked into a board meeting, not a standoff. She stopped beside her boss and opened the laptop with a practiced flick. "All contracts are signed," she said, voice low but audible to the entire room. "The transaction is logged and time-stamped. You are now the majority owner of this airline." The terminal went silent. The manager blinked. "Excuse me." Carla rotated the screen so he could see it. "Check the corporate registry. It updated less than 60 seconds ago." He stepped closer, reading the name at the top of the screen. And then he stepped back, color draining from his face. "No." The pilot's voice cracked from behind him. That can't be real." The CEO looked at them both, eyes steady, unflinching. "You ripped up my ticket. You humiliated me in front of a room full of witnesses," she said, voice calm but slicing through the air. "And you did it in an airline I now own." A collective murmur swept through the terminal. Mia let out a sharp breath, relief and vindication mixing in her voice. "I knew it," she whispered. One of the passengers whispered, "She bought the airline?" "Just now." The CEO stepped forward, her heels clicking against the marble floor like a verdict. "You thought you could erase me," she said to the manager. "But I don't disappear. I rewrite the entire system." The manager tried to speak, but nothing came out. Because in that moment, everyone knew the power in the room had shifted. The silence didn't last long. "Oh my God," someone whispered from the back. "She actually owns it." The murmur grew into a wave. Phones tilted higher, capturing every second. Hashtags were already forming in whispers. Hashtag Jet Justice. Hashtag She Owns the Airline. The manager stumbled back a step, the clipboard slipping from his hand and clattering to the floor. This is a mistake," he stammered. "Corporate will fix this." Carla's gaze was sharp, unwavering. "Corporate just signed off. There is no fixing. Only consequences." The pilot looked like he'd been punched. "This can't be happening," he muttered under his breath. The CEO turned slowly to face the staff that had humiliated her minutes earlier. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "Step forward," she said to the manager. He didn't move. "Now." He shuffled one step closer, face pale. You ripped up my boarding pass, she said, each word deliberate, measured. You accused me of fraud in front of everyone in this terminal. You called security on me for daring to exist here. Do you deny it? The manager opened his mouth, then closed it. The room was too quiet. Do you deny it? She repeated louder. I didn't know who you were, he whispered. That's the problem, she said. She turned to Carla. Terminate his access. Effective immediately. Carla's fingers flew over the keyboard. A loud chime echoed from the manager's phone. He pulled it from his pocket and stared in disbelief as the screen flashed access revoked. What is this? You can't. You're done here, the CEO said. Turn in your badge and step aside. Gasps spread through the terminal. Someone near the coffee bar started clapping. And him, she said, turning her gaze to the pilot. He blinked. And me? You tore up my ticket. You degraded me publicly. And you made sure everyone here believed I didn't belong. Do you deny that? The pilot shook his head, mouth opening, but no words coming out. Carla, already processed, Carla said. His credentials are locked out. The pilot's phone buzzed. He looked at it, face collapsing. A woman near the windows, one of the passengers who had been filming, whispered to her friend, she's firing them on the spot, live. The CEO turned to the security guard. Do you understand what's happening? He nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. Then escort them out. Both of them. Now. The guard hesitated. Right here? In front of everyone. Yes, she said, voice like a verdict. Exactly where they tried to erase me. The crowd erupted. Phones went higher, flashes popping. Mia, the young flight attendant, stepped closer, jaw tight. Do you want me to call the crew? Not yet, the CEO said. They'll see this for themselves. As the guard moved to escort the manager and pilot out, the manager spun back toward her, his voice desperate. Please. I've been with this airline for 15 years. This isn't fair. She met his eyes, unflinching. You think fairness is humiliating a paying client because of how she looks? You think fairness is tearing up a woman's ticket in front of strangers? That was your last mistake. The manager lowered his gaze. The guard took him by the arm and began walking him toward the door. Passengers started clapping louder now. Some stood up. One voice shouted, Justice. The CEO didn't smile. She stood in the center of the terminal, shoulders square, as the sound of applause and camera shutters filled the room. This isn't about me, she said quietly, mostly to herself but loud enough for Mia to hear. This is about making sure it never happens again. The terminal was alive now. Phones buzzed, flashes flickered like tiny storms of light. Hashtags exploded in real time. Hashtag #JetJustice hit trending within minutes. Passengers who had been silent before were now speaking openly. I can't believe I just watched that, a man in a tailored blazer said into his phone's camera. She owns the airline. They humiliated her. And she fired them on the spot. Another passenger whispered to her live stream. This is bigger than one flight. This is systemic. And it ends today. The CEO stood motionless in the center, letting the noise swirl around her. Her gaze swept the terminal like a commander assessing the battlefield. Every staff member still standing shifted uneasily, afraid she might look their way next. Carla stepped closer, voice low but certain. Phase 3 is ready. Do you want to proceed with the internal audit? Yes, the CEO said. Pull every service complaint logged by this terminal in the last 12 months. I want to know exactly how deep this runs. Carla's fingers flew across the keyboard. Done. And she hesitated just long enough for the CEO to glance at her. There are already 8 complaints involving women of color. All dismissed. Most by the manager you just terminated. A muscle tightened in the CEO's jaw. Escalate those cases. Reactivate the ones they buried. Carla nodded and tapped a command. Somewhere behind the counter, the terminal's main monitor flickered. Dozens of employee files populated the screen, red flags flashing. One of the remaining clerks, a young man with a nervous expression, stepped forward hesitantly. Ma'am, I was just following orders. Please don't fire me. Did you speak up? She asked. He froze. Did you say anything when you saw what they did? His eyes dropped. No, then you're part of the problem, she said, voice flat. The crowd behind her murmured. Someone whispered, she's not holding back. Carla looked up from her laptop. Unlocking his access now. Do you want me to suspend the rest of the terminal team until the audit is complete? Yes, the CEO said. Every single one of them. Gasps rippled through the terminal. A woman at the front desk grabbed her phone in a panic. Please, I have kids. You had a choice, the CEO said, cutting her off. You could have done the right thing when you saw injustice. You didn't. The young flight attendant, Mia, stepped forward again. Ma'am, not everyone is like them. I tried to speak up. The CEO turned to her slowly. I know. And you're the reason the audit will be fair. We need people like you inside. Mia's eyes filled with tears she didn't bother hiding. The crowd began clapping again, louder this time. Passengers started shouting her name, some recognizing her now from Forbes and Bloomberg covers. That's her, one man said into his live stream. The CEO who turned around 3 major airlines in 5 years. And they treated her like a fraud. Carla held out the laptop. Ma'am, we've already found evidence that the manager and pilot altered bookings for at least 6 passengers based on appearance. It's in writing. The CEO's voice dropped, quiet but deadly. Document everything. By tonight, their names will be on every industry blacklist we can reach. A clerk whimpered softly behind the counter. The CEO looked around the room, her eyes locking on every staff member one by one. This terminal, she said, her voice carrying over the crowd, is finished operating as it has. The system that allowed this humiliation stops today. Applause thundered through the terminal. And for the first time since the ordeal began, the staff realized what was happening wasn't just about one flight. It was about the entire culture they had upheld, and the woman who now had the power to tear it down piece by piece. The terminal's energy was electric, no one even pretending to sit down anymore. Phones stayed up, catching every second. Live streams flooded the internet with captions like, "She bought the airline after they denied her seat. Watch this CEO dismantle an entire terminal live." Carla's voice cut through the noise, crisp and unwavering. Ma'am, we're pulling archived messages now. You need to see this. The CEO stepped beside her, scanning the laptop. Threads of internal emails scrolled past, line after line of language she'd seen before, but never stopped being shocked by. Not the right image for our premium cabins. Avoid the optics of boarding certain passengers during VIP charters. Policy equals protect brand perception. Her chest tightened, but her face didn't move. How many employees are involved? She asked quietly. Carla hesitated. More than a dozen. Some of these messages go back years. The CEO looked up slowly, her voice cutting like a blade. Read one out loud. Now. Carla took a breath, selecting a message. Here's one from the terminated manager to the pilot. You know the rule. If someone doesn't look like money, reassign their seat. We can't risk ruining the brand experience. Gasps rippled through the terminal. A passenger near the coffee bar muttered. They just said the quiet part out loud. The clerk still standing behind the counter put a hand to her mouth. We were told it was policy, she whispered. The CEO stepped forward, her heels striking the marble floor with purpose. That's not policy, she said, her voice carrying over the crowd. That's prejudice disguised as professionalism. And it ends today. One of the live streamers shouted, "Tell them what you're going to do about it." She turned, meeting the lenses head on. "We're cleaning house," she said simply. The passengers erupted, clapping and shouting encouragement. Carla tapped another command. Ma'am, the audit shows over 30 affected passengers in the last 6 months alone. Most were women or people of color. Their bookings were deleted, reassigned, or downgraded. The CEO's jaw tightened. Contact every single one of them. They'll be refunded in full and receive permanent elite status. No excuses. No delays. Carla nodded. Done. A teenage boy filming from the corner asked, "Are you going to shut this terminal down?" She turned toward him. "No," she said. "We're going to rebuild it. And the people who allowed this will never work in this industry again." The clerk behind the counter started crying quietly. "Please. I didn't do anything. I was just scared to speak up." The CEO faced her squarely. "You think silence protects you. It doesn't. It protects the system that failed you too. But today, you get a choice. Help us fix it or walk out with the others." The clerk nodded frantically, tears streaking down her cheeks. Mia, the young flight attendant who had spoken up earlier, stepped closer, her voice steadier now. "I'll help. Whatever it takes." The CEO's eyes softened just slightly. "Good. Because when people like you stand up, everything changes." The livestream cameras zoomed in on her face. Comments flooded the screens. This is leadership. She's rewriting the rules in real time. Imagine being this calm and powerful after being humiliated. Carla touched her arm lightly. Ma'am, news outlets are already calling. They want a statement. The CEO looked directly into the nearest camera, her voice even and cold. They'll get one, she said. But not here. First, I finished cleaning up the mess they made. The terminal felt like a courtroom now. Phones were everywhere, catching every tear, every whisper, every shift in power. Carla leaned in, voice sharp but quiet. Ma'am, the audit just flagged something bigger. It's not just this terminal. We're finding the same language at 3 other hubs. Same managers. Same pilot network. The CEO didn't blink. Show me. Carla rotated the laptop so she could see. Chain after chain of messages filled the screen. Don't board them in front of VIP clients. Seat reassignment works better when security is ready. Erase them clean from the system before it escalates. Her chest tightened again, but her voice was like ice. How many people signed off on this? Carla swallowed. At least 9 executives. Some at corporate level. The CEO looked out at the crowd, her jaw set. Then they're done too. She turned to Carla. Suspend every executive tied to these messages. Freeze their access before they touch another file. Yes, ma'am. Carla's fingers flew. Notifications began pinging around the room. Some staff grabbed their phones, staring in horror at the words flashing across their screens. Account suspended. Report to HR. One of the clerks broke down immediately. It wasn't my idea. They told us to do it or lose our jobs, she sobbed, pointing at the remaining supervisor. He made us delete those bookings. The supervisor spun on her. Don't you dare pin this on me. The CEO raised a hand, and the arguing stopped instantly. Save it, she said, voice cutting like a verdict. You all protected a system that humiliated paying passengers based on their appearance. That ends now. A voice from the crowd shouted. This is bigger than one flight. Yes, she said, turning toward the livestream cameras. This is about every terminal, every counter, every gate where someone decided people who look like me didn't belong. That stops here. Today, the passengers erupted into applause. Some stood on chairs to film her. The livestream comments exploded. She's dismantling them in real time. This is what leadership looks like. I've never seen someone this powerful and this calm. Carla stepped back into frame. Ma'am, media outlets are demanding a press statement. CNN, CNBC, and the Post are waiting outside. The CEO looked straight into the nearest phone lens, her voice deliberate. They'll get their statement, she said. But I want them to see something first. She turned to the security guard. Bring the terminated staff back here. All of them. The guard hesitated. All of them, ma'am? Yes, she said. I want every single person who erased someone from this airline to face the witnesses they tried to erase me in front of. Gasps swept through the terminal. Someone whispered, she's going to confront them live. Mia stepped forward nervously. Do you think that's safe? The CEO's gaze didn't waver. It's necessary. Carla touched her arm. What do you want me to tell the press when they see this? Tell them to keep recording, she said. Because this is how you change a system, by dragging it into the light. The terminal roared with applause. Phones zoomed in on her face as she stood there, unmoved, ready to face the people who had tried to erase her existence. The terminal doors slid open with a hiss. The security guard stepped in first, followed by the manager, the pilot, and the remaining suspended supervisors. Their faces were pale, their movements stiff, like people being marched into a courtroom. Phones snapped upward instantly. Dozens of cameras tracked their every step as murmurs filled the air. That's them, someone whispered, angling their live stream toward the disgraced staff. The ones who tore up her ticket. The manager tried to square his shoulders, but his voice shook. This isn't necessary, he said. We made a mistake. We didn't know who you were. The CEO stood perfectly still in the center of the terminal, Carla at her side, Mia a few feet behind. You didn't need to know who I was, she said calmly. You just needed to treat me with dignity. The pilot stepped forward, desperation clawing at his tone. Please, I have a family. I can't lose my license over this. You should have thought about that when you tore up my ticket, she replied. The manager's voice cracked louder now, trying to rally sympathy. We were following company culture. We were told to do this for years. And did you ever question it? She interrupted. Silence. The passengers began to shift, murmuring louder. One of them spoke up, phone still recording. You humiliated her in front of all of us. Now you want sympathy. The pilot turned to the crowd, eyes wild. You don't understand. We didn't have a choice. Yes, you did. Mia's voice rang out from the side. She stepped forward, trembling but unafraid. I'm a trainee, and I spoke up. You could have too. The room erupted in applause. The CEO raised her hand, and the noise softened instantly. You built a system that rewarded discrimination, she said. Now you're facing the people who saw it firsthand. The manager tried again, his voice breaking. Please, I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly. This is already public, she said, nodding toward the rows of cameras and phones. The live stream comments exploded across screens. This is global now. Millions watching in real time. She's dismantling them live. A voice from the back shouted, Don't let them walk away with a slap on the wrist. They won't, the CEO said. She turned to Carla. Prepare the full list of names for industry release. Every executive, every manager, every staff member who signed off on these policies. Effective immediately, they're blacklisted from private aviation. The manager gasped audibly. You can't do that. She looked at him evenly. I already did. Carla's fingers tapped the keyboard. A final chime echoed through the terminal as another round of access revocations went live. Phones buzzed in the hands of the disgraced staff. Their faces collapsed as the reality sank in. They were finished. The applause thundered again, louder this time, some passengers standing on chairs to film the moment. You erased me, the CEO said, her voice carrying over the clapping. You tried to make me invisible because I didn't fit your idea of who belongs here. But today, the world is watching. And you don't get to erase anyone ever again. The crowd erupted. Hashtags exploded across live streams. Hashtag JetJustice. Hashtag She Owns the Airline. Hashtag Never Again. And as the former staff were escorted out one by one, the CEO stood unmoved, the weight of the moment radiating from her presence. Because this wasn't just her victory. It was a reckoning. The terminal was roaring now, a storm of voices and applause that could be heard from the tarmac. Livestream comments scrolled so fast they blurred. News alerts popped up on passengers' phones mid-recording. Black CEO buys airline after being denied seat. Video goes viral. Hashtag JetJustice reaches 12 million views in under an hour. Mia, the young flight attendant, glanced at the glass doors as flashes began to strobe from the other side. Ma'am, she said, voice hushed, the press is already here. They're everywhere. The CEO stood still, hands clasped loosely in front of her. The calm she carried felt heavier now, as if the entire room was moving in her rhythm. She turned toward Carla. Let them in. The terminal doors opened and the journalists flooded inside, cameras hoisted high, microphones shoved forward. Questions flew like arrows. Did you really buy the airline on the spot? Were you denied boarding because of racial profiling? What do you plan to do with the employees you just fired? She didn't flinch. Quiet, she said. The word wasn't loud, but it was enough. The noise fell away in an instant. She stepped forward, the cameras crowding around her. You all saw what happened here, she began, her voice steady, unwavering. A paying passenger was humiliated, erased from a system designed to protect appearances instead of people. Today, that system ends. Applause thundered through the terminal again, journalists spinning their cameras toward the cheering passengers. This isn't about one flight or one terminal, she continued. It's about every unchecked power that decides who belongs and who doesn't based on how they look, where they come from, or what they wear. That stops here. Not just for me, for everyone. Mia stepped closer, her voice breaking slightly. Thank you, she whispered. The CEO looked at her, nodding just once. And to those of you watching this live, she said, turning toward the live streamers' phones, thank you for bearing witness. Your cameras are the reason this truth can't be buried. But our work isn't done. She paused, letting the silence cut deep. Effective immediately, this airline will undergo a top-to-bottom restructuring. Every single complaint ignored or erased will be reopened. Every passenger harmed by these practices will be made whole. And every leader who allowed this to happen will never hold this power again. The journalists erupted with questions, but she raised a hand. One more thing, she said. To anyone who has ever been told, you don't belong here, this moment is for you. Because now you do. The terminal shook with applause. Mia was crying openly. The passengers stood shoulder to shoulder, some filming, some simply clapping until their hands ached. Carla leaned in just enough to be heard. Ma'am, we're trending in 32 countries. The board wants to issue an official statement. They'll get one, the CEO said, but not before we finish here. She turned back to the crowd, her eyes steady, her presence unshakable. Because justice, she said softly, isn't a press release. It's a promise. The cameras caught every word, and the world was listening. The journalists' questions kept pouring in, overlapping each other like waves crashing against the same shore. Will you shut down other terminals? Have you spoken to the shareholders? What about corporate leadership tied to these policies? The CEO stood motionless, letting them spill into the air without answering. Then she said one word. Enough. The room hushed instantly. Even the cameras stopped rustling. She glanced at Carla. The board. Carla's eyes flickered at the laptop. On standby. They want to know your next move. Patch them in, she said. Carla tapped a few commands, and seconds later, the laptop screen lit up with the faces of board members. Executives who had once believed themselves untouchable now sat in their glass offices, watching her from thousands of miles away. Madam Chair, one of them said, voice tight. This situation is spiraling. Media is everywhere. We need to contain it. The CEO looked directly into the camera. No, we need to fix it. Starting with you. Gasps broke out from the passengers who realized they were witnessing a corporate board meeting live. Another board member shifted uncomfortably. Let's be reasonable. You allowed a culture to thrive that humiliated paying passengers because of how they looked, she cut in, her voice cold. You're all accountable. And some of you will be leaving with the terminated staff today. The board members froze, faces stiff. Carla whispered, do you want me to read the names? Yes, the CEO said. And Carla began listing them one by one. With each name, another executive on the screen went pale. The journalists' cameras swiveled, catching every reaction, every tremor in their voices. This is madness, one board member finally snapped. We've worked here for decades, and in those decades, she said, how many passengers were erased because they didn't look the part? How many families humiliated at terminals you never once set foot in? Silence. This airline will be rebuilt from the ground up, she continued. Anyone unwilling to lead with integrity can leave now. We'll survive without you. A passenger in the crowd muttered. She's cleaning house from the top down. The comments on live streams exploded. She's fearless. This is bigger than one company. I've never seen a CEO move like this. Carla closed the laptop and whispered, it's done. We have resignations on file. Control has shifted fully to you. The CEO took a deep breath and turned toward the terminal's glass doors. Outside, the Gulfstream G700 gleamed under the setting sun, engines still idling. Ma'am, Carla said softly, the jet is waiting. The CEO started walking, the crowd instinctively parting to make a path. Passengers clapped as she passed. Mia, the young flight attendant, stepped forward. Can I walk you to the plane? She asked. The CEO's eyes softened just slightly. You're not walking me, she said. You're flying with me. We have work to do. Mia blinked in disbelief, then nodded fiercely. The journalists followed them to the door, shouting questions as cameras clicked, but the CEO didn't look back. Because this moment wasn't about them. It was about rewriting the story. The terminal doors opened, and the blast of evening air hit like a cleansing wave. Cameras surged forward, flashes popping against the metallic gleam of the Gulfstream G700 waiting on the tarmac. Every step the CEO took toward the plane felt deliberate. Passengers and staff lined the walkway, phones raised, applause rippling through the crowd like a heartbeat. Mia walked beside her, clutching the edge of her blazer nervously. Carla followed behind, laptop still in hand, eyes scanning the chaos of reporters pushing against security barriers. Ma'am, they want one last statement before you board, Carla whispered. The CEO stopped at the base of the jet stairs. She turned slowly, facing the sea of cameras, microphones, and streaming phones. The noise was deafening. She raised a hand. Silence. Her voice carried over the tarmac like it belonged there. An hour ago, I was told I didn't belong on this plane, she began. I was humiliated, erased, and treated as if my presence was a mistake to be corrected. Not because I lacked a ticket, but because I didn't look like someone who belonged. The crowd leaned forward. Today, she continued, I've shown you all something I wish I'd never had to prove, that silence isn't survival, that the systems built to exclude can be dismantled, and that dignity isn't negotiable. Mia blinked back tears. Carla's grip tightened on the laptop. The CEO took one step up the stairs, then another. Cameras zoomed in on her face, the world watching through 1,000 screens. She paused at the top, looking back one last time. "You told me I didn't belong," she said, voice sharp and certain. "But now, I own the place you tried to keep me out of. And I promise you this. No one will ever be erased from this airline again." Applause erupted, thunderous, unrelenting. Mia followed her up the stairs, wiping at her eyes as the crowd chanted her name. Carla stepped on behind them and signaled to the ground crew. The jet door closed slowly, sealing out the noise. Cameras captured the final image. The CEO framed in the oval window, unflinching, her silhouette a testament to every person who had ever been told they didn't belong. As the Gulfstream engines roared to life, hashtags lit up across the world. Hashtag JetJustice. Hashtag She Owns the Airline. Hashtag Never Again. And somewhere in the cacophony of cheers and flashing lights, a single truth echoed. She hadn't just boarded the jet. She had rewritten the entire flight plan.